Do you experience digital eye strain from too much blue light exposure from digital screens? Baxter Blue glasses are not your average frames. These blue light lenses filter 80% of the highest energy blue light, eliminating 99% of glare. The past year, we've all been glued to our devices more than ever, and never did I think, as a health and fitness professional, would I be overexposed, but now all of my sessions are on Zoom. Our exposure to digital light has soared, and our eyes and our sleep are suffering as a result. Baxter Blue is also a force for good, and they provide a pair of reading glasses for someone in need for every pair sold. This is eyewear built for our digital age, and Baxter Blue is giving our listeners right now 10% off your next purchase of blue light, sleep, or kids glasses. Just click the link in our show notes for your exclusive discount. This is the sign you've been waiting for to invest in blue light glasses. I know you will love your Baxters, and I know that you will feel the difference.
Welcome to Balanced Life with Debbie Carlin Boyle. Conversations connecting to a healthier you. The show that gives you all the latest and greatest health and wellness information to inspire you to live a life of balance and joy. Debbie Carlin Boyle is a health and nutrition coach, personal trainer, and fitness instructor who helps her clients live in balance with everything that feeds us, in addition to the food on our plate. Please welcome your host, Debbie Carlin Boyle.
Hello. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Balanced Life with me, your host, Debbie Carlin Boyle. This is conversations that connect to a healthier you. I try to find people that are in the field of health and wellness who are either selling things, their services, or doing some nonprofit work to help you live your best life. So thank you for tuning in today. We have a great show. We're back to our series with my co-host in my series, Tarni Falloon. And I'm really excited because we're kind of gonna dig a little bit deeper into what we talked about last time with limiting beliefs. And this time we're going to talk about self-forgiveness, which is kind of on the back end of limiting beliefs. So I'm excited about that. But first, I want to tell you a little bit about me. I am your host. I am a personal trainer, a fitness instructor, and also a health coach and nutrition coach. And I help people find balance in their life with everything we do, because it's interconnected. So one thing goes low, a lot of other things start to follow. So I help you get back on the balanced wheel. And if you reach out to me, you can work with me for free. Right now, I am giving free sessions. So you go to my website, which is balancedlifebydebbie.com. And all the information is there for you to get in touch with me, and all the details of what I do to help you live a better life, especially now we're coming out of all these lockdowns that we've been in for over a year. And some of us have that extra 15 that we gained during quarantine. So I'm here to help you navigate that, and we can see how we can get back on the path of health. Also, I want to let you know that we are an interactive show. So if you're listening live today, you can call in. The phone number is 323-524-2599. Or you can go to my Facebook page where we're streaming live. But if you're not listening live, you can also make a comment or ask a question, and Tarni or myself will get back to you post-show. Also, my YouTube channel, which is Balanced Life by Debbie, YouTube. You can go there, and at any time the show lives there, you can make a comment. I sometimes get back to people a year after the show is run, or even more. So there you have it. We're going to get to our third series right now. So here's where we're at. On our last podcast together, we talked about limiting beliefs and negative thoughts and how these can affect you. So these beliefs get caught in the body, and over time, they're repeated, and negative thoughts of judgment that you place on yourself end up causing issues on a physical level. So today we're going to talk about the self-forgiveness process. It's a way of shifting and releasing the negativity of limiting thoughts that get embedded in your psyche and your body. My co-host for our series, Living Well Through Healthy Life Approaches, is Tarni Falloon. Tarni is the creator of Body-Centered Medicine, a somatic and embodiment method that uncovers what your body, pain, and anxiety are holding. Tarni believes that the body's intelligence has information you need for healing. She guides those that are ready to heal on all levels, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Let's dig into Series 3, Self-Forgiveness. What it is, how it affects us if we don't allow ourselves to forgive, and the process to get there. So please, once again, welcome Tarni Falloon to my show.
Thanks,
Hi, Tarni.
Hi, Debbie. Wonderful to be with you again.
Yes.
Nice to see you.
Yes. This is like 4 times that we've actually been able to be in a room together. Well, a couple of times we were on Zoom, but we've been able to interact with each other and talk about these things that are so vital and important to our overall health. Because I love what you do. I love the whole thing about somatic healing.
Thank you. Yes.
And we figured from an early start that we could get kind of a jump start on a series based on what I help people with and what you help people with to bring it full circle in different subjects. And that's what our series of Living Well Through Healthy Life Approaches is all about. So today we're going to kind of piggyback on what we talked about last time, which were limiting beliefs. And I encourage the listeners, if you could, to go to my YouTube channel. We did that about 2 months ago. And if you watch that show, you'll understand what limiting beliefs can do to you and how it plays out in our life and in our body, and could be in a negative way, because we talked about ways to get out of that. And now we're going to talk about self-forgiveness, which piggybacks, I think, on limiting beliefs.
Oh, totally. Yes, because limiting beliefs get stuck in the body. But limiting beliefs usually come from either I'm not good enough, or I'm feeling shame or blame or upset or something and we hold it. And we hold it in our psyche and in our body, and then we tend to repeat them, and so they become these limiting beliefs that we tend to believe. Self-forgiveness is a way of releasing those.
Right. So it's sort of the second part, if you will, of doing that.
Which we'll go through a little step by step, and then that'll show you. Yes.
Yeah, I think that would be important. So let's talk about what is self-forgiveness. What is just
self-forgiveness usually is about some sort of violation to yourself, or something that you value that's been transgressed, or that it's self-forgiveness is about allowing it happens because we need to do it. Self-forgiveness is something we want to embrace because we feel like we've wronged someone, or we feel like we've been wronged, and we hold on to it. That we've experienced or witnessed something that has upset our system in some way.
Right.
And then we hold on to it. Right?
We hold on to it because somewhere deep inside it's affected our moral integrity.
Exactly.
And the values that we held.
Exactly.
And we can't get over the fact that we're harboring this.
That's right.
So it manifests itself in a lot of ways.
Exactly.
And how does not allowing self-forgiveness in your life, how does that play out? How do we see it? What happens?
It plays out in all areas of your life. It can affect you physically, emotionally, mentally. It can create, if you've got something repeating constantly, I shouldn't have done that, or that was silly, or I'm no good, or that didn't work, and why didn't I do that? Where you place judgment on yourself, that creates stress in the system. So you're always in adrenal stress, or you've got, and so that can create increased blood pressure or cholesterol. You can have that emotional stress that's happening, and so then it gets caught somewhere in the body, and so then it creates a physical pain, or you get emotionally irrational about something. You have reactions to things that are out of proportion to what's happening. So it has lots of ramifications. It can affect your health, your wealth, your relationships, your work, your purpose. It can get in the way. I would say mostly that's what I work with a lot, is where do I find that limiting belief or that issue in the body, And then there's a limiting belief there. If we do the self-forgiveness process, which we're going to talk about a little bit more later in the show, is, oh, okay, I don't need to hang on to that, and then I can move forward.
And then things start to go back up again instead
unwind,
of that,
yes.
that tumbling
Holding you
down
down.
effect. It's sort of like a stack of stones or something that are piled up, and little by little things start falling over because you haven't done the deep work. And that's why us working together works out so well, because a lot of times, I deal with a lot of people that are sleep deprived and have adrenal fatigue because of something that's much deeper that they haven't dealt with.
And it's also addictions.
That's right. That we try to mask what's
or
hurting
obsessive
us.
compulsive behavior, or trying to be very controlling.
Right.
Because we're masking. And yes, it'll turn up in your physical body or your emotional,
and then I try to
mental body.
help them physically, but sometimes they fall back into the pattern of self-sabotage because they haven't dealt with it emotionally from the deep, deep ends of what you do and help people.
And that's where this self-forgiveness process is very good, because you can actually shift it.
Yes, which is
for the last time.
Yeah. So let's, one of the things that we did when we knew that we were going to kind of dwell into this subject is we put out, we asked people to give us examples of where they're having issues and to ask us questions about self-forgiveness. And you have one of the questions, I think, there. 'Cause
Yes.
this way we can answer them for you here on air.
Yes.
And helping you, we're going to help others as well. So
Lara asks, why should I forgive my husband who had an affair and ruined my life?
okay. So
That's a big one.
So that's universal, right?
Yeah.
Because we are blaming ourselves for an action that somebody else did, and we may never. That just manifests and piles
it can go
up
into it, yes,
so deep.
down the rabbit hole, as I say.
Yeah.
So underneath often my experience with questions like that is there's often women will ask, and men, I guess, but women particularly, where did I go wrong? So, why was it my fault? Was there something that I did that I should have done differently? And then they take that, go round and round and round, and what have I done? So she says, why should I forgive my husband when it really, I didn't do anything wrong. He had the affair. But often what we do is we turn it in on ourselves and say, well, where did I get it wrong? Mm-hmm. What did I do wrong? Why wasn't I more attentive? Why wasn't I should have, would have, could have, right?
Right.
So for her, it's looking at what is she beating herself up about? Then doing the self-forgiveness process allows to forgive herself, because she actually didn't do anything wrong. Mm-hmm. Maybe there was something, but she needs to be aware of, and then she can let go of forgiving him because he just did what he did, and that's his issue, not hers.
That's right. And has to, and like you said, so something that she may be aware of that she can actually work on,
exactly,
so it doesn't keep festering, because that does affect our health. And she can work on that. So her next relationship.
And she and I think in the not she, but often that those particular people that I work with often maybe have gut issues, digestive issues, and headaches, neck and shoulder pain. So it comes out in chronic issues in the body as well. And I'm going to talk about, I think there's someone else, a client example I have that I want to share about that.
Oh, good. Okay. Yeah, because oftentimes when we have an ache or pain or chronic headaches or chronic sleep disorder, we're going to blame it on something that's right in front of us at the moment. Oh, I drank or this, or I ate
too much,
that, or
had too much wine,
my kids, or I've got
yep.
work stress. Yes, those are valid. But oftentimes when chronic pain, things that are coming up over and over again, there's something deeper going on.
Absolutely.
And that's taken me a while to discover, There's a letting go process that comes with self-forgiveness that we don't realize we need to do, because we don't realize that we're harboring this
Well, because
stuff.
we haven't brought it to the surface.
That's
we
right.
haven't,
And bringing it to the surface.
And I think there was another question we
Yeah,
had.
I think there was. Let's
Tara
see.
asks.
Is it Tara?
Oh, Jane, I'm sorry. Yes, sorry.
Okay, wait. Why don't? Oh, Jane asks, why is it important to not only forgive others, but also to forgive myself, which we were touched based on. So here, obviously, it's easier to forgive others than it is to forgive ourselves, because that you can say, I forgive you, and you're putting it outwardly.
You're separating it
separating
a little bit, yeah.
from you. But then you still have this. It's kind of like what we talked about with limiting beliefs. We had a caller with limiting beliefs on the last show that we did together.
Hillary.
Hillary, who had a friend
Yes.
that wasn't talking to her.
That's right.
And it was because she believed that, and she didn't realize this, but that she believed that she was a little quirky, a little odd, and it was
So
just,
she was judging herself.
and she was judging
for her
herself.
friend. Hillary was judging herself for her friend not talking to her when it was actually nothing. It was nothing to do with. It was nothing to do with who Hillary was. It was
something. It was
to do with
the
her
issue
friend.
was more going on with her friend, but Hillary internalized it.
And
And
we-
here we do this
we
with
all do that.
self-forgiveness. We'll internalize, and again, we tell ourselves these stories that
exactly,
make
and we
it worse.
and we move into guilt and shame and blame and you know we often, even if we do think we've forgiven someone, if we haven't forgiven ourselves first, or we don't forgive ourselves, sometimes we can't completely forgive the other.
No, and that's where the
That's
shame comes in, I
yes,
think, too.
yes.
I mean, I see issues or I see actual physical interactions between people where, well, let's say it was a divorce between a husband and wife, and there's shame on one side or the other for whatever reason. We can go back to the question we had before, but they still have to see each other because their kids involved, there's financial issues or whatever they're going through. And they won't even look at each other in the eyes. Or one won't look at the other because of the shame that they're harboring. That shame in itself is going to take action within your body, and it's going to show up somewhere.
Shame is, yes, it's atrocious and it's very toxic.
Yes.
It's
and
very
so,
toxic. And so it's really important that, you know, and so it could be disappointment, depression, anger. There's all sorts of different feelings. So it's really important in any given situation, with a situation that you're triggered by or that's not resolving or there's something going on, you want to look at what the feelings are, whether that's in the physical body or with a relationship issue. It could be something like running late for work and you're always beating yourself up because you're running late for work. Oh, I'm stupid, or I'm late, or I can't get organized, or whatever it might be.
And that mantra, I'm stupid, what an idiot, I always do this. You keep telling yourself that.
And that builds up an adrenal
That's-
stress and toxins in the body, and then it comes out as some sort of chronic illness or pain or mental issue. You know, it's just, it really, it manifests itself some way in the physical body in
and
some
it's
form,
really,
and the psychic body.
yeah, and it's harmful. It's harmful. You're basically chopping off, some years of your life
and
with
your divine
holding on to that.
Yeah, and your divine flow. And I just want to say back to Tara, research shows that self-forgiveness gives you much more gives you mental and emotional well-being. So it's really important that with self-forgiveness, you get when you're able to move into it, you get more positive attitudes, you're feeling more emotionally and mentally aligned. So I said, so the things, your life can move forward, and also you have healthier relationships, not only with yourself, but with everybody else around you, which is key.
Absolutely key. Hold some thoughts here. We're going to take our first break. We'll be right back, and we're going to get into the process in a little bit, okay? So hold on. We'll be right back after this message. I have been a wine enthusiast for many decades, but for a while, I had to stop drinking wine because of the sleepless nights and the headaches that I would have in the morning, even after only one glass. Does this sound familiar? So for the past 5 years, and since the start of my show, I've been looking for a healthy wine, and finally I found the answer I've been looking for: Dry Farm wines. Dry Farm wines are lab tested for purity, just 12.5% alcohol or less, 0.15 grams of sugar or less per glass, very low sulfites, and free of toxic additives. Dry Farm wines are dry farmed with healthy, biodiverse soil, and the taste, bright and vibrant due to no manipulation. I can't say enough about the amazing wines that I've tried. And now you too can drink wine and not worry about how it is negatively affecting your health. Just go to dryfarmwines.com/balanced life by Debbie so you too can taste the love put into every bottle. We're back. Thank you. Hi, everybody. We're talking about self-forgiveness, and we're talking about how detrimental it can be when you're hanging on to something that you haven't forgiven yourself for, and how it plays out in our bodies. And my co-host in our series is here with me, our series of living well through healthy life approaches is Tarni Falloon. And hi, Tarni. Thank you for joining me again.
Great.
We're getting into, we've just kind of touched on, we have these questions that people have asked about how they're harboring bad feelings inside because they're not forgiving themselves for something. And we're going to get into the process of how to forgive because it plays out in so many detrimental ways.
It does, and it's a really, really powerful process. And people also harbor resentment, not only forgiving themselves, but not forgiving another. You know, my alcoholic father, or my maybe my boss at work or whatever. We often, and that's when we often project, well, that's, that other person's causing me harm.
Yeah, it's the blame game.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
I grew up in an alcoholic family. And for the longest time, especially once I became a parent, I was such a different parent than my alcoholic, drug-addicted mother was, that I blamed everything in my childhood on her. And I couldn't forgive her. I couldn't forgive her. She did say in her final years that she was sorry and she apologized for the kind of mother she was. And I said, I forgive you to her. I said those words out loud, but deep down, I don't think I came to terms with it, and I don't think I made amends with it. And so I think I've harbored it, and I do think it's played out in my adult life in different ways. And now that I can identify, I mean, that's one of the part of the process is identifying, right?
Right.
Where are you not forgiving yourself?
And you just said something very powerful. Often we intellectually or we have thoughts about forgiveness. We know we need to. And so, maybe your mum did the very best, or she couldn't help it that she was an alcoholic. It wasn't her fault. Maybe, something happened to her. And so but it's important that it is released out of your body. And you said it beautifully. A lot of people, well, I forgive them, but they actually haven't got to the seed of it.
No.
And that's why we want to identify. So in Debbie's case, I have the incident is I had an alcoholic, drug addicted mother. So in your case, and then you want to get to the feelings. Well, what are the feelings I feel about that? And that's often the really hard thing to do, is to actually then go into, so what might some of the feelings be, Debbie, that you had about your mum? I mean, you hated her, or you were angry at her, or you were disappointed, or you were...
All of the above. Yeah, I was angry. I felt like she was weak. And I judged her harshly for her weakness. And I probably overpraised myself for being an adult who wasn't weak, who didn't turn to drugs or alcohol to numb my real feelings, who dealt with things straight on. But what I realize now that I wasn't dealing with, we're in a session, you realize that, Tarni, but I realize now what I wasn't dealing with was that I wasn't forgiving her or myself for the feelings that I was hanging on to.
That's right.
These deep emotions that blamed her for everything that went wrong in my life. And to this day, I still do that. And so it would play out in, when I was a little girl, I had these awful stomach aches,
right.
And I didn't know. Finally, it turned out I had appendicitis, but just because I had my appendix taken out didn't mean the stomach aches went away. I mean, I had a lot of rage and anger.
Right.
And as an adult, I started blaming my mom for those. I didn't
issues.
act it out because I held everything in.
So it's
know?
interesting. You don't know this, but I actually grew up with an alcoholic father.
Oh,
And I had stomach aches as a child too.
So
I know. And I've had to work. And I remember the time, in fact, I can even feel the emotion of actually being really deeply in my body, being able to forgive my father. I mean, he was a violent alcoholic, so it was pretty traumatic in my family. And so it was, so I actually know this process works deeply because I've been able to release some, and my stomach ache still can come back, and it's when I'm not dealing with the deeper feelings of my fear, because I was afraid as a child of the fear inside my body. I'm not dealing with that part of me, that aspect of myself, that young self that gets afraid.
And I bet you there are so many people that can relate to that, because so many of us have come from alcoholic, or I don't want to say dysfunctional families, but some anger in the family that, we've sucked in the bad air of that and held on to it. And then we haven't been able to release that. And then self-forgiveness, limiting beliefs, all of that stuff comes on, and then it plays out in a physical way.
And it often plays out. I see it. Stomach aches one, chronic neck and shoulder pain is another one.
Yeah, I bet.
Hip pain. So it comes out, because what happens is when we are holding self-forgiveness, holding some sort of blame, shame, anger, upset, disappointment, hurt, depression, we're not in our power. So we're not embodied. We're not lining up in our core, heart, belly, pelvis, but grounding in our pelvis. The energy's all a lot further up, and we're holding on, and it's mental. And the self-forgiveness process, once you do it, it's like...
I know this is command central, right? So it can either harm us or it can heal us.
It needs to be the servant, not the master.
Right.
And we need to listen. So step number one, let's just go back. Yeah, so we want to, recall or bring forward what the offense, the incident, the what happened to you. Then acknowledge what the feeling you're holding. So am I angry? Am I, sad? Am I... what's the feeling that I'm holding about? We actually call it often judgment, because self-forgiveness is about the judgment. So judged my mom, I judged my dad. Well, I was terrified of my father, actually, to be honest. And I just want to say, so another example of that, I had a client, I'm just remembering, and I'll call her Cheryl if you like, but her father died when she was 10, kidney disease, something. And no one dealt with her feelings. Wow. So and her mum was so grieving, and she got sent to an aunt, and no one asked her how she was doing. So here she was as a 45-year-old young mother, just didn't know how to play with her kids, didn't know how to be with her kids, didn't know how to have any joy, had her marriage, there was no relationship, no sex, there was just nothing. And it stemmed back to the judgment she placed on herself for her father's death.
Understood.
She must have done something wrong. Could have she done something else? It must have been. There was something. So she internalized it and blamed herself. Once she did the self-forgiveness process and released it, she could actually then start getting on the floor and playing with her young kids.
And that's huge. It's huge. Something my mother never dealt with, which is the reason why I think she became an alcoholic and a drug addict, is that her mother died as a result of her birth. And she was never told about it. And as a teenager, she found her birth certificate when her father passed away and realized the woman who she thought was her mother for the last 16 years of her life was not her mother. And the lie that was perpetuated from the day that she was born, she was put in an orphanage until this woman married her father, and who happened to be my grandmother and the love of my life, which I didn't know about until my 20s, that she wasn't my grandmother. So, but my mother harbored that secret that they kept, and that she possibly, because of her birth, killed her mother.
And
her mother died.
That's right. And if you
deep.
don't deep with that, if no one worked with it, if she's held on to it and not admitted it.
And that's a big part. When I found that out in my mid-20s, when I found that out, I was more able to forgive my mom because not that she had an excuse, but I'm like, okay, I get it.
Makes some sense.
I
just want to say that denial, living in that denial just builds up so much toxin as your mom becoming an alcoholic.
Right.
So what can you do about it?
Yeah.
Right.
What's
the next step?
The next
so
step.
it's you want to you may not. I'm not going to go up to my father and say, "Oh, I forgive you, Dad, for being an alcoholic. I'm really," or if I've done something wrong to someone, I might not apologize directly or get the apology or the conversation, but internally we can do this process. So there's two ways of doing it. This is my teaching. This is what I've learned. I forgive myself for judging myself for or as. So if anybody's got a pen and paper, or if you listen to this, we say we've got on YouTube, we've got our own channel.
Yes.
And so, but I forgive myself for judging myself for. So I forgive myself for judging myself for not being good enough. I forgive myself for judging myself for thinking it's my fault. Or I forgive myself for judging myself as it must have been my fault. You actually go through with the for or the as. So there's forgiving. So I'm going to forgive the judgment I place on myself, not the action. It's really important. So I'm going to forgive myself for judging myself for being afraid. I'll talk about me with my dad. I forgive myself for judging myself for being afraid.
And you list the different things you're forgiving yourself for.
Or as. I'm not forgiving him for creating my fear, for being a violent alcoholic. I'm forgiving the judgment I made on myself because of his actions. So again, for you, it's like, as Debbie, I forgive myself for judging myself as angry at my mother, but I'm not forgiving my mother for her alcoholism. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. It does.
So it's really
because
important.
It's putting things in a proper category or pocket, should I say? Or
so I forgive myself for judging myself as depressed. Right? But the depression may have come, or I forgive myself for judging my father, or let's say I forgive myself for judging my husband for being diminutive or being controlling. Right?
Okay.
You're
just kind of list it.
You're listing them out. So
we got one more break.
Yes.
We're going to pick up
back
right where we left off.
Good.
So we'll be right back. Stay with us. I want to share with you a product I've been using for the last month, known as the most powerful antioxidant on earth. It's called My Vital C. My Vital C will not only help you feel healthier, but research shows it will aid in a longer life. And since using My Vital C, here are the things that I noticed: that I have no more restless sleep. It's so much easier now for me to fall asleep. And as you know, sleep is a great immune system booster. I'm also supporting my immune system with antiviral and antibacterial properties, and not to mention the high levels of antioxidants I'm receiving. So the bottom line here is I simply feel better. And now I'm recommending My Vital C to all my clients, my friends, and my family. To order this life-changing product, go to the link myvitalc.com/balancelife. Make sure you take advantage of the 25% discount on subscription. You can cancel at any time. Use the coupon Balance Life for an additional $15 off your first order. Go to myvitalc.com/balancelife and check out this life-changing product right now. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. I'm here. We're talking about self-forgiveness with my co-host, Tarni Falloon, and we're going to get right into, we've already started the process.
Yes.
So where we left off.
Thank you. So again, you're going to identify the incident. You're going to feel the feeling, and I want to say, feel the feeling in your body. So what's the feeling in your body? So Debbie, when you feel anger towards your mother, where do you feel it in your body?
In my gut. I get that, that feeling when the
I
roller
do.
coaster's about to go down.
Yeah.
That's the feeling. It's the drop, the
Right.
stomach drop.
So, but it could be anywhere in your body.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the client that I talked about earlier with her father dying she had this chronic neck pain that she had been to everybody. And I often see people who've been to lots of tried different modalities, and it didn't work. It works, but it doesn't sustain because they've got this emotional piece that's held in the body. So then you do the actual process where you do the forgiveness. I forgive myself for judging myself for or as. And then you can also do it, I forgive myself for judging XYZ, the person, for or as. And you just list them out.
Yeah.
You just list it out.
It is well known that writing down
Yes.
really helps manifest and make things take action. To write things down. That's why journaling is recommended so often. So making that list, I would say, is vital to
key.
success.
It's absolutely key, because there is another piece to it after that, but it's really identifying those judgments you're holding. And I mean, I've done this process. I have a whole book of judgments. I'd love to publish it one day, but it's doing it at different life stages in my life. And judgments, you can have pages and pages of them. It's not just one or two judgments.
Do you think you got into this whole thing, what you do, healing sort of from the inside out because of your story? And
Totally.
Yeah.
In fact, because as a physiotherapist, I'd actually, and I was an Australian trained
and you were hands-on.
Hands-on. I was a sports medicine physiotherapist, or a sports medicine physio, as we say, and hands-on. And people were starting to share other things as I'm healing their pain. So I obviously had a gift for it, or an energetic.
And
bringing it out. And then I went on to do my training in psychology.
It's all inter.
And then I did my movement training, and that, just brought it deeper into the body. What I know to be true is you, and I said earlier, and I'll say it again, is not thinking those judgments, feeling those judgments. Right. Where are you holding them in your body? Then you can actually release them. So I forgive myself for judging myself for not being on time. I forgive myself for judging myself for always spilling things. I forgive myself for judging myself for, never being tidy. I mean, there's 1,000 judgments
so
we place on ourselves.
So you keep writing them down. And is this something you have to keep rewriting down?
It's actually,
or keep rereading?
I just keep reading because I'm going to tell you the next piece.
Oh, okay.
But one of it, a really nice thing to do is every day for the next 3 days, think of 3 judgments you placed on yourself. I forgive myself for judging myself for, and just do that. And just see what judgments come up. You'll be amazed, actually.
Yeah.
So then the next step is to look at, okay, and it actually happens really organically. So I've forgiven myself for judging myself for, let's say I forgive myself for judging myself for always running late. I sometimes do, sometimes don't. But I'm going to say I forgive myself for judging myself for not managing time. Let's do that. Then I look at, the truth is here with managing time, I actually just put too many things on my plate. I try and do too much. So maybe what I can do is lessen that. Mm-hmm. And then I can write a new belief that's when we talked about limiting beliefs.
Yeah.
And we can change that
yeah.
to a new belief. Like, I'm doing my best to always be on time. Right. And you change that then, and then that becomes a change in that mental conversation. Right. So then you move into a place of compassion.
Compassion is key.
Compassion, appreciation, gratitude. So then, with my father and maybe with your mother, I can have compassion for him because he had a mum who was mentally ill. Mm-hmm. She probably had schizophrenia. She didn't want him. By the time she had the 4th child, his aunt grew up, his brother. She wanted a girl. She had 4 boys, so she ignored all her boys.
Wow. And the same thing with my mom. I have to have compassion because imagine taking on, finding out something so important that your parent isn't actually your parent when you're a teenager, when you're got raging hormones anyway, and you're defiant, and feeling that you were the reason that your parent died in the first place.
And
horrible.
And then, so you have compassion, but then compassion, I need compassion for myself, for my anxious little girl that got anxious because of my father's behavior. For you, having compassion for that angry self, who then developed what I'm hearing is a very responsible self as an adult. I'm not going to be like
I went
that.
the opposite direction,
so
blamed her for everything bad in my life.
And then that you became very responsible. So it's then having compassion. Oh my God, how amazing I took care of myself. And then looking at, well, what do I need to do now?
Yeah.
Right. So in this new place, I can take care of that young self, like I talked about the woman whose father died. She can start taking care of her young self who needs recognition. Same deal.
Yeah. Makes so much sense. And then really what happens is, from my standpoint and from what I do, you start taking better care of yourself. It comes down to self-love. And I've realized a lot of my shows, and I have now well over 200 podcast shows that I've done in the last 5 years. A lot of what we talk about comes down to when we're talking about health and wellness, we're talking about self-love.
Exactly.
And in order to get to self-love, you have to get rid of limiting beliefs, and you have to be able to forgive others and yourself in your life. And you have to dig deeper than the surface. And that's kind of what we're talking about here.
You have to feel that shift in your body. So it's an emotional, self-forgiveness is an emotional shift where you move into a compassionate, loving place and a place of kindness. So you can be kind to yourself. You can be gentle with yourself when you make mistakes. Sometimes I make a mistake and I say, oh, silly Tani, you're silly today. Oh, don't worry, you'll do it better next time. I mean, it's just, people talk about that positive self-talk, right? But if you've got positive self-talk and the judgment sitting underneath, it's not going to work.
Mesh. Yeah,
you have to go to the judgment, release it, then you can go. Then you can sit in that loving place.
And I also find, too, when people are harboring things, that when they do take better care of themselves. So, for example, and we talk about this a lot in our series, but they start feeding themselves better. They're drinking more water. They're eating better foods, non-processed foods. They're cooking at home and getting enjoyment, which is food is made to be enjoyed. So find the healthy food that isn't going to harm you, but is going to help you. It's going to allow those feelings that are harboring, it's going to make it easier to get rid of the self-sabotage that you're doing. It's also going to allow you to sleep better at night. It's like, again, all of these things are interconnected.
They all work together.
You're going to want to get out in nature and start grounding. You're touching the earth with your feet, walking on the ground, walking on the beach, feeling the sand. Those kind of things are so healing, and you can allow them, once you get that process going of getting deeper, you can allow it to help you. And exercise, of course, is huge. These are the main, there's so many little subtitles under that, but these are the main things that we can work on that will allow the forgiveness and the limiting beliefs to kind of dissipate.
Well, it's what you're saying, Debbie, is you're setting yourself up for self-care.
Right.
You're setting yourself up to, I'm important enough to listen to myself, to take care of myself. And as you say, if you take care of nutrition and exercise and then you start looking, well, what else is there that I need to, and digging a little deeper, what judgments am I holding? It all works beautifully together.
I think so too. And I'm a huge advocate of it. That's what I'm here for. I'm helping you. I also find it the other way, that when you start seeing ways that you're not taking care of yourself because for whatever reason, and you dig and you haven't done deep enough to figure out that reason, like we're talking about here with us digging deep, when you start taking care of yourself, then you can go deeper and then you find the reason. Totally. So you don't need, so it's sort of all,
well, you can do one or the other,
but they're all going to play out to make it a better life. And that's really what it's all about, to find the self-love you can give to yourself, and then it just goes out to others. It's like, this beautiful
and
opening.
Then it comes back to you, actually. And I'm sure, I know
you
found that, and me too.
Yeah.
It comes back in so many beautiful ways.
Yeah, and you start listing those ways, and the gratitude comes in. And the gratitude and the compassion, leads to gratitude, I think.
And then you become, a shining light that people enjoy. So
I like this series, and we're going to piggyback our next series in June with, taking off on this like we did with limiting beliefs, overlapping with self-forgiveness. But you've got a couple of great ways people can work with you right now, and I want you to be able to talk about that in the few minutes that we have left.
Thank you, Debbie. Yeah. So I have, my work is around body-centered medicine. So my focus is becoming more body-centered. And as we talked about, if you've got judgments and you're holding them, you're going to stay up in your head or disconnected from your body. So I do a Tuesday evening meditation that's free. I do which I call a body centering meditation. I'm doing a Thursday morning moving meditation, which is just gorgeous, particularly for women. It's an empowering empowering your feminine energy class. And then in June, I'm going to do a series. It's 6 hours of the fundamentals of body-centered medicine. So it's actually addressing some of the things we're talking about here. And I'm very excited about that. I haven't got the date yet, so you can go to my website, Tani Falloon, www.tanifalloon.com.
Spell your last name, Tarnie, for those that are listening.
So Tani is Tarnie, Falloon, FULLOON.com. And to get the discount, you can email me now. You do podcast SF or podcast, whatever you want to write, just something, Debbie's podcast, something, self-forgiveness, and you'll get $100 discount off the full price.
Oh, that's good. That's really nice.
It's not a very expensive class either, so
yeah, that's a good discount.
So that's in June, but you need to
nice.
You need to let me know. You need to email me, and so I can put you on the mailing list or check on the website.
Oh, that's
lovely. It's not quite up yet.
Yeah, that's so and again, I work with Tarnie, and she is so remarkable at the work that she does for people, healing them every day from the inside out. And then, if you want to get into physical exercise, I'm doing all of that on Zoom right now. I teach on-demand classes through a place called Dig Cycle, digcycle.com, CYCLE. And I'm also health coaching, giving free 1-hour sessions right now. So I love that we had this series. We're going to be back together again in June on the second and fourth Tuesday of each month. And so we'll probably be on the fourth Tuesday in June if our schedules work out. So look for our next series of Living Well Through Healthy Life Approaches that we're going to be doing together. And final words, leave us with some words of inspiration, or you're always so good at that. Some final thoughts for the audience.
The first thing that comes up to me is be kind to yourself. So often we always are taking care of other people, we're kind to other people, and we forget how to be kind to ourselves. So my word is be kind and find some gentle, loving words for yourself. And feel that love for yourself.
Love it. You can write those down. Remember, we said when you write it down, it really manifests, it becomes a reality. So do that. Be kind, gentle, compassion, love, all those wonderful things that are hard to do, easier to say, but it's doable. It's doable. All right. I want to thank you all for joining me today. Thank you, Tarnie. I'm going to see you all in 2 weeks from today, right here at 2 p.m. And please go out and keep finding those conversations that connect to a healthier you. Thanks, everybody. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye.